I'm Sohla El-Waylly. I'm a recipe developer, video host, and I used to be a chef. You may know me from my work with FOOD52, the New York Times, or the History Channel. But today, I'm here to talk to you about my love of cheese. Well, and language, but mostly cheese. Let's say 90% cheese and cheese-related things, and 10% language. Okay, so I'm always looking for more ways to incorporate cheese into my diet. So when my husband, Ham, who is half Bolivian, made this cheesy bread from Bolivia for me, I kind of lost my mind. It's called cuñapés, but after a little bit of research, we found that this cheesy bread is really important throughout different countries in South America, where they have variations on this bread with different names and slight regional differences. In Brazil, it's called pão de queijo, where they make it with an aged cheese from the region of Minas Gerais. And then in Colombia, it's called pan de bono, where sometimes they add masa repa to it and it's found like a little flattened disc rather than balls. And then in northern Argentina and Paraguay, it's called chipa. So what's up with all these names? We're gonna talk about it. We're gonna talk about the different types of bread, and I'm gonna make for you my US version using ingredients that are indigenous to me. So I'm gonna use Bob's Red Mill flour, sharp New York State cheddar, and we're gonna call it cheesy bread. So let's get cooking. So the key to this bread is tapioca starch, which is refined from a tuberous root that you can find in South America, the Caribbean, and Asia. Depending on where it's grown, the tapioca starch that you make from it can be a little bit different. So depending on what kind of starch you use, the bread's gonna be a little bit different. Okay, so now we know where this tapioca starch comes from. In the bowl it goes. Oops. And to this I'm gonna add some baking powder. Baking powder is more of a modern addition. So the traditional bread of the indigenous people, it was just the tapioca starch. It was really dense, I'm sure. Here we go with the salt. And I'm gonna, oh, it's a little humid. Let's get the salt in there. And I'm going to scald my milk and butter. So dairy didn't come to South America until the colonists came, the Spanish, the Portuguese, the Italians. The land there was really favorable for growing grass and having dairy cows. So dairy became really popular, and it only got added to this bread very recently, like in the early 20th century, dairy began becoming a part of this bread. That's when this bread really became what we know it as today. So I'm gonna whisk up my tapioca starch, my baking powder, and my salt while I wait for my milk to scald. You can make this bread without scalding the milk. I just find that the dough comes together a little bit better if you take the time to heat up the milk. Okay, so I'm scalding my milk, my butter, and then we're gonna add it to our starch. Okay, my milk is hot. I'm gonna add it to the tapioca starch, and we're gonna stir it up. We want to kind of distribute this heat before we add the eggs so they don't curdle with this hot liquid. But once we get it mixed throughout the starch, it's gonna be safe to add. Mostly mixed, you know? Tapioca starch is a really interesting texture. It gets really chewy. If you've ever had mochi, which is made from sweet rice flour, it's got a similar texture, but what's unique about it is that it also traps air. So you end up with a really nice and fluffy bread, even without the baking powder. Okay, now I'm gonna add my eggs. Okay, so I'm mixing this all up. Now tapioca, unlike wheat flour, doesn't have any gluten, so you don't have to worry about over mixing it. Just make sure you take your time and do not undermix. You wanna make sure everything gets hydrated, or you can get like this weird squeaky texture if you bite into like a ball of starch. Gross, you don't want that. Okay, so now that I got everything mixed up, I'm gonna add my cheese. So I'm sticking with cheese that I can easily find. We've got some sharp cheddar, and I'm gonna use a little bit of grated pecorino. This is definitely not the cheese that they use in South America. Each of the cheesy breads I mentioned earlier are all made with local cheeses, which really adds to the flavor and characteristics of the bread. The cheese doesn't just give it flavor, but it's gonna affect the texture. So a drier cheese, like the one they use in Bolivia, is gonna make a little bit of a drier bread that holds its shape a little bit better than like the meltier cheese that you might find in other regions. So try this with different cheeses and you'll make like, invent your own local cheesy bread. You know what I mean? Okay. Now, what I found really interesting is when I've made this with this Bob's Red Mill tapioca flour, you get more of like a batter. It's almost like a pancake batter. But when you use that Brazilian starch, it's like a dough. Even with the exact same weights, because it's ground differently, the texture's different, it hydrates liquid differently, so it's gonna be a little bit different, but it's still gonna be cheesy. Because this batter is so much looser than the one that you make with the traditional starch, I'm actually gonna bake it in a muffin tin. So normally you'd form these into balls, just like a dinner roll. When you make it with the South American starch, you form these into balls, and then you bake it and you get these nice little round, beautiful cheesy bread. But I'm gonna do this in a muffin tin. I'm gonna do a little spritzy spritz. You know, if you wanted to really go for it, brush it in butter. Let's scoop. You can also just use a ladle or a couple of spoons, but I really like using these scoops for portioning anything really. Like cookies, of course, with different doughs and batters. It's gonna make sure that each one is about the same height. Now these are gonna bake at 400 degrees and it's gonna poof, just like pâte à choux. That's what's incredible about tapioca starch. It can really hold on to air in a way that a lot of other starches can't. It's gonna get really poofy, golden brown. The outside has a nice crunchy, cheesy texture. The inside's gonna be fluffy and also chewy at the same time. I've got my cheesy bread batter in my muffin tins. It's gonna bake at 400 degrees until it's nice, poofy, golden brown, and squishy on the inside. Okay, my bread is brown, it's poofed, let's get it. Oh, it smells very cheesy in here. And look at that. Whoa. Nice and golden brown. You can see the little flecks of cheese. They got like extra brown. You know when you make a grilled cheese and some of the cheese comes out the side and it gets extra crispy? Watch how easily it pops right out. Should we do it? Are you ready for a dump? Wow. Beautiful, right? Because we did it in a muffin tin, we got extra crust. Woo. All around. Woo, so hot. Okay, let's break into one of these guys. Oh, so crusty on the outside. You can hear that crusty. Now the inside, see how the inside, it's like stretchy, but fluffy. You can see these big bubbles. Ooh, and I love how you get this really great contrast because there's crunchy on the outside, just like a Cheez-It, chewy on the inside. What's incredible about this texture is the tapioca starch gives you this like chewy, stretchy texture that's a lot like cheese. So it's like these two things that have similar textures. When they come together, they just like magnify each other's chewy, stretchy cheesiness. It's so good. So we got these nice, beautiful bubbles on the inside. You know what this needs? Maybe like more cheese. Make a cheese sandwich out of this cheesy bread. Well, I mean, whether you make this with the South American starch and South American ingredients, or you make it with ingredients you have around, it's gonna be delicious. I hope you try it. Make your own cheesy bread and like think about how amazing it is that different languages, cultures, and cuisines came together to bring us this amazing cheesy glory. Thanks a lot for hanging out with me and enjoy the rest of Duocon, hopefully with cheesy bread.